Welcome to the Bosque. It's been a productive week cleaning up spaces and settling in for the rainy season. I'm Brian. Let's take a look at some of the things going on in the Bosque in late June 2011. I've been walking around each of the spaces and seeing how we can improve them. It feels great to rediscover some of the less visited spots in the Bosque. So many spaces and unfinished projects, it makes my head spin. While I have a huge to-do list and some harsh challenges, I'm trying to enjoy the little stuff, like this little guy. That's my thumb there. Seems like every day there's something new in the Bosque. Well, the rains are finally here. The cisterns are ready to capture all the water. We're measuring how much rain there is daily as it fills up the rocky pools in the ravine, and all the animals and plants celebrate. The forest turns greener by the day. In the kitchen, Marie's been experimenting with new flavor combinations and ingredients. I get to enjoy the test meals. You can read Cooking for Community to learn more about food in the Bosque. She's been making sauerkraut, mango chutney, lentil curry. She's also been able to make whole meals just from the ingredients in the gardens. She made ghee for the first time. Ghee is an Indian type of clarified butter. Ghee is a great way to preserve dairy without refrigeration. I wonder if we could make ghee from goat's milk. The orchard is filled with fruit, more so this year than any year previous. I suspect it's due to all the manure from the composting toilets. There are apples, peaches, mandarin oranges, plums, and, as always, many avocados. Pomegranates are not quite ready yet. Mostly June is a time for planting, but some of the gardens are producing now. This year we're weighing what we harvest so we can increase productivity and produce more of our own food from the forest gardens. Tomatillos are a weird little vegetable which grows easily here. They have a tangy kind of taste, like a cross between a plum and a tomato. They're especially good in salsas, but I wonder if we can get people to eat them raw. Too many people only eat cooked foods and don't enjoy food in its natural, tasty state. I like to eat tomatillos raw, but the name tomatillos sounds wrong to me, since it makes me think the flavor will be like a tomato and then my taste experience doesn't match my expectations. Maybe if we call them elf plums or Ziruelas elfos, or maybe then they would taste right. Elf plums come in a little papery skin, and if one turns the skin up like a flower, they look kind of magical. If you come to the Bosque in the right time of year, you can eat an elf plum. The nopal cactuses are producing their fruit. We've planted thousands of them, and as years go by, we'll have hundreds of kilos of the fruits, which are called prickly pears, or tunas in Spanish. The purple tunas are especially good. To harvest them, just scrape the spines off with a stick, then wipe the fruit off and cut it open. The flesh inside is exotic and tasty. Perhaps when we have a surplus of the fruits, we can ferment them. Capulines are a small native cherry which grows on a big tree. You just pop a few in your mouth, chew off the flesh, and spit the seeds out. They seed easily, so there are thousands of baby trees in the forest. The cherries are hard to harvest once the tree gets large, so I'm wondering if we can trim the trees to be smaller so that humans can harvest them easily. Next winter, we plan to graft other types of cherries onto Capuline to see if they could do well here. Last year, we grafted a cherry onto the native manzanillo tree, and it seems to be doing well so far. The quince trees, which we grafted onto the manzanillo trees over the last 3 years, are producing heavily for the first time this year. We're going to have to figure out what to do with a lot of quince. Maybe we could give some away, and maybe we can learn to ferment them and make quince wine or some quince mead. We continue to improve the soil in our gardens and are putting trails in to protect them from people's feet. We're putting in the starts which we began from seeds months ago. Yesterday we planted about 40 trees and bushes which are new for us. Olives, ginko, guayabana, Chinese guayabana, coffee, grapes, new varieties of apples, etc. We'll have to keep a close eye on these to see how they do. One unusual garden is by the Cosmic Truth Cabanas. Rainwater runs down a steep trail and is captured in a hole dug by volunteers. The soft dirt on the lower side is planted with chard, and the plants survive their first year in this somewhat shady spot. The extra runoff from the trail should make a special environment to extend the growing season. Tomatoes are hard to grow here without irrigation in a greenhouse. Most of the year is too dry, and the tomatoes want to be watered. The rest of the year there is so much rain that the tomatoes rot if they don't have a roof. These are Oaxacan tomatoes that are doing well, and because we've learned to save the seeds, we'll always have more. Saving tomato seeds is a little bit different than saving other seeds. Scoop the seeds out, then rather than dry them as you would with most seeds, put them in a cup with a little water. Let them sit a few days so the fermentation process can remove the protective husk of the seeds. Then dry them. We're producing so many seeds that we're able to give them to our friends and neighbors. By saving lots of seeds and planting them exactly the right time of the year, we should have huge surpluses of tomatoes, which we can then dry in the sauna to use in other parts of the year. We still have lots of experimentation to develop more options and also to get our timing right so that we can grow outdoors when the climate supports us rather than build infrastructure and force the tomatoes to grow all year in greenhouses. Seed saving can be a fun hobby. Try it at home. Here's a little papaya which has seeds germinating within it. We'll plant these seeds too, even though we're too far up in the mountains for papaya to do well. Normally they grow on the hot coast of Michoacan. Well, maybe they could do okay if we got just the right microclimate. Maybe in a courtyard, heavily mulched, or in the studio. With the rains come the first mushrooms. In the past, we've left most of the mushrooms where they are, just harvesting a little for us to eat. This year we'll be paying more attention to where they grow and why. In August, we'll host our first Mushroom Week. Guests will come for the Semana de Hongos. It will be held during the week prior to the Sengyo Mushroom Festival. In the lower part of the ravine, we found an oak log covered in mushrooms. This is the largest concentration of this mushroom we've seen. They look like a variety of oyster mushroom, but I'm not sure. I went ahead and ate one to test it out, and nothing bad happened. We'll get a positive identification before serving them to guests. There are many types of useful mushrooms which grow in the bosque. We'll be reproducing some of the useful or most rare ones. One method we use is mass spore inoculation as described by Paul Stamets in the book Growing Gourmet and Medicinal Mushrooms. This is a very low-tech way to spread the natural growth of mushrooms. I collect the mushrooms in a 5-gallon bucket, add water and a little Piloncillo sugar with a gram of salt. After 4 hours, the mushrooms have dropped tens of thousands of small spores into the mix, and I pull the mushrooms out. The spores germinate and use the sugars as fuel to reproduce over the next 12 to 48 hours. I can place that mycelia-filled liquid on prepared medium that I know that type of mushroom likes, either in a controlled setting or simply in the forest in spots I guess that mushroom would like. This year I'm also creating a spore library to culture and preserve the most powerful fungi here in the bosque. I haven't used a sauna in over a year, but there are few people around right now, so I had a chance to light it up and enjoy. Over the sauna is an earth roof. It was planted a couple years ago, and it's nice to see which plants enjoy that spot. Various varieties of succulents do the best, and they keep the roof green all year round. We'll spread those plants to our other green roofs. Some marigolds also were able to reseed and will give us flowers for celebrating the Day of the Dead in the 1st of November. We don't want to waste any water at all maintaining the roof, so we accept the process of discovering what plants want to live on the roof, rather than force other plants to live in that strange spot. My little camera doesn't work anymore. Shutter door doesn't open, and even after cleaning the inside, it still doesn't work. It's too bad, since that's the camera I usually lend to kids when they visit. It's a tough camera and can handle being dropped or getting wet. We have some guests coming in next week, so we'll finish cleaning up some spaces and make an activity schedule for them. We're also creating promotional materials to invite groups in Michoacan to have their retreats at the Bosque Village. For now, we'll focus on Morelia, Zamora, and Uruapan. We've been improving our houses for the chickens and rabbits. We want them to have good shelter from the rains and enough spots to be so that they aren't crowded together. We're also keeping the cocks separate from the young chicks so that the chicks can mature without being bothered too much. There still aren't any rabbit babies. The female bunny was sick for a while. She seems to be fine now. We raised the wall up with another layer of wire to protect the chickens and rabbits. Now we call this space Fort Knox. I noticed a lot of arrows on the dirt road outside the bosque. Hopefully these arrows mean that the annual bike race, run by Race Extreme, will pass by the gate. I think that race is in early November. We're hoping that some of the bikers who come to Aronga for the race will camp out at the Bosque Village. We've been enjoying long walks into town for the company, scenery, and fun. This week we ate at a new restaurant called Lupita's out on the lake bed. Tasty. We've been enjoying sitting on Cute Hill watching the sunset. For the first time in a long time, we relaxed with games at night. As the 2 rainiest months of the year begin, we'll be having more fires at night, as well as more indoor art projects in the studio. The dogs are all doing great. Sometimes we get leftover bones from the butcher. Luna's getting a little old, so she's becoming a house dog. Thanks for your interest in the Bosque Village and our projects. If you've enjoyed this video, please send it to friends. We have a lot of ambitious goals for the Bosque Village and are looking for like-minded people to collaborate on ecological and artistic projects.